Cheap Ari here. Today we're going to be talking about Tekken 8, which is now out for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox consoles, along with also being out on PC. Now, for me, Tekken holds a very close personal spot in terms of Tekken 3 being one of the most favorite games, the most memorable games of all time for me, back to the PS1 days. And truthfully, in terms of Tekken as a franchise, for me, it hasn't stayed in the quite same fighting shape as Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, which have been more transformative over the course of its life of those franchises, of really changing the game in the fighter arena as far as industry goes. Tekken has, to me, stayed more stagnant. Now, in terms of the story, I couldn't really tell you. It seems as if for Tekken, it's been about dads throwing their sons off cliffs, sons returning the favor by throwing their dads off cliffs, and then the dads return the favor by throwing their sons off cliffs, and then the son throwing the dad off into a volcano. That seems to be the extent of the story, though you have samurais, you have androids, you have demons, all thrown into the mix into this crazy concoction with bears and people wearing tiger masks, and it just is fun. So for me, it kind of all boils down to, can I play as martial law and can I have a good time? And with Tekken 7, I was a little unimpressed. And when I purchased this on PlayStation 4, I played it for a few times, unimpressed, kind of meh. And I started to load up the game again after some time had passed, put the disc into my PlayStation 4, and even my PlayStation 4 said, meh, and spit the game out. It wouldn't work. Even though it was a perfectly unscratched copy, my PlayStation 4 gave up on Tekken 7. So, am I going to give up on Tekken 8? This time I have a digital copy, having downloaded it on Steam, and we'll be playing it on the Steam Deck as opposed to my PlayStation 5. So with that, let's see how Tekken 8 plays. Okay, running into an error already, a fatal error. This black screen will immediately stop you from playing it on your Steam Deck. Problem number 1. Let's go to the installed files for Tekken 8 in Properties and double check to see if we need to verify the integrity of the files and see if that fixes the issue. I'm also going to download the Proton Hotfix application, which is really meant for those AAA heavy games that are in their launch week and kind of help them kind of run on that first week. And I'm going to use that as a compatibility tool and see if it gets the game to work. So that seemed to do the trick, and it looks like the game is actually running now. Now let's get into the game and see if we have any other fatal errors. So entering into the story mode, the main story mode at least, it's almost like a story of Rocky, with Jin Kazuma taking on his father, Kazuya Mishima, and really just kind of losing the battle at the beginning of the story mode and turning down his devil powers so that he's not consumed by evil. Now, of course, none of that has to deal with Rocky, but the main storyline is just, if you boil it down, you have a guy that lost a battle and kind of has to fight his way back up and kind of go from being weak back to being strong again, and kind of uses the help of other people to mentor him and build him back to strength for that big battle again. Now, to make things more complicated, Katsuya has now established the Iron Fist tournament once again as kind of a survival of the fittest to get out the weak and bring in the strong. And that's when all the major players come into the storyline for the tournament. Now, the main storyline is filled with cinematics and kind of all following and interconnecting, but through the character episode selection from the main menu, you can actually select story modes for each character rather than playing through the main story mode. The story is told through still panels, but otherwise this plays just like your standard arcade mode. There's also new additions to this game that make it more easy and accessible for newcomers, like Special Style, which is very similar, at least to the feel of it, to Street Fighter VI's modern control scheme, making really impressive moves easily accessible and easily achievable just by a click of a button, and you should be able to execute a devastating move on your opponent. And when your energy drops below 25%, use Rage Art, and this is a special move that'll turn the tide of the fight in your favor. Moving on to the arcade quest mode. This is somewhat similar to Street Fighter's online mode in terms of just kind of going around in an avatar rather than the actual Tekken character models. And the whole point is to kind of build your way up in this arcade tournament. And you've got these different small, very small open world hubs that you can walk around and challenge other CPU opponents and build up your proficiency in the game. It's kind of like a extended tutorial mode, but in actuality, the majority of this part of the game is really just to build up your in-game currency, which you can use to customize your avatar and also buy costumes for the main Tekken characters. So yes, this is a nice addition to Tekken, is that you can actually create alternate costumes for the main Tekken models. Again, these are alternate costumes to the main primary costume that the character model wears, but it's a nice touch, and again, using the in-game currency from Arcade Quest can be utilized here to buy additional costumes. Moving on to the online multiplayer, I was confused as how to start an actual match with a real-life player. It seems like the game will kind of learn how you play and creates a ghost profile of you, and for any player that is playing online, so you can technically go up against ghosts but not actual real life players. And then there are these arcade machines that you can play on, but it looks like you're just playing against the CPU. Now, after kind of figuring it out, that once you go to one of these arcade machines and just kind of play against the CPU, you will be connected eventually to a real life player. However, anytime it tried to connect me to one of those players, an actual real life person, it would disconnect or that player would drop. So no matter what, online is completely broken right now. It doesn't seem like I have found a way, at least through Steam, to actually play and connect with a real life person. I am constantly stuck playing against CPU opponents. And even trying time after time after time to play against a real life person, it went to a fatal error on the machine. So yeah, online is completely broken right now. So moving on to the next mode, Tekken Ball is pretty much what you think it would be. Pretty much just playing a very simplified limited match with a ball that acts as dodgeball. And the purpose is to kind of use your moves to hit the ball, which will then projectile hit the other opponent. And the more that you hit the ball, the more impact, of course, that maneuver has and kind of strengthens the ball's impact over the course of the match. Very simple, nothing more than something a player would do for just more than a few minutes out of boredom. Another critical issue I have is that I expected the Steam Deck to play this at full performance with respect to graphics and resolution, at everything at ultra levels, and I was clearly naive when I thought that. You're going to have to play the settings way low in order to play this game, and it's going to come off very blurry, and it's not going to look good on a TV screen. It'll look okay on the Steam Deck if you're playing it outside of dock mode, but again, if you're playing it on the big screen, it's going to look extremely blurry. And that's unfortunate. I was really hoping that this was going to play at a better graphical fidelity than you play on the PlayStation 5 or Xbox, but clearly it's looking like right now a Switch game, and that's clearly unfortunate. Again, hopefully this will be optimized in the coming weeks and we won't have this issue that we're having right now. If you're changing any of the settings from low over to medium or high, you're definitely going to see a performance hit, and the frame rate is going to drop pretty low. So again, keep it to low and some settings maybe to medium, and it's going to really impact the visuals, but otherwise you're not going to have that great performance experience. That does it for me, guys, on my initial impressions on playing this in the Steam Deck. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time in a couple of weeks when this game is optimized.